Welcome back to Going Walkabout. As we explore other cultures, we are continually exposed to things that are different from our own. We notice the different ways people interact, how they get through the cadence of their day in very different rhythms than our own. We can see how they celebrate their traditions and what their daily patterns look like. How other cultures go about their daily lives becomes imprinted on us when we travel, especially when we slow travel. In this video, I'll be going over our culture shock at coming back to the United States after over a year spent in Europe and England. We're coming to you from Palm Desert, California. We'll go over 7 things that we noticed upon our return from Europe. So here we are back in Palm Desert, just getting over jet lag. It's taken some time. I think when you get older, it takes more time, unfortunately. And we'll jump into our list of 7 things that we noticed right away coming back to the US, that culture shock. So one of the first things that we noticed is how much safer we feel when we're either in Europe or the UK. And we believe that that is possibly due to the gun control issue. In most of the European countries, including the United Kingdom, you can't buy guns. And so you can get a shotgun and that's about it. And because of that, when you go out every day, you don't kind of feel in fear that something bad is going to happen. You know, there's going to be a shooting in a school or in a grocery store or something. And that's kind of nice. I noticed when we lived in England from 1985 to 1990 and then came back to the United States, I felt the same way then too. The other thing that we noticed is that they have a huge police presence in all of those countries, and the policemen still walk the beat, as they, I guess, did back in the day here in the United States until we became a car culture. So whether you're in France or Italy or Spain, you will see police walking, riding horses, on bicycles. They even take those unicycles around when there's crowds and so forth. And because there's this police presence, you really feel safe. Not to mention, the policemen are pretty fit. I think they could easily outrun any kind of a culprit in a robbery type situation, because for the most part, they're young, they're fit, they look like they enjoy their job, and they interact a lot with the community. All of that, again, gives you a feeling of safety. Not to mention they have great uniforms. I wish I took more pictures of policemen in uniforms because the uniforms are pretty cute. So feeling safer is definitely at the top of our list of things that we noticed right away. Okay, the second thing we noticed, I hope it doesn't come off insensitive, but it is something we actually noticed, it really hit us, is how many overweight and obese people there are. And it was pretty much in the first couple days that we were back, it seemed like 50% of the people, if not more, that we were seeing would be classified as overweight or obese. The difference is in Europe, you just don't see people like that. You might see the odd chubby person, you might even see a pretty hefty guy. The Italian mama is classic, right? The big Italian mama in the kitchen. You see things like that, but you don't see the chronic obesity and overweight people that we have here. And we know that that is because of the diet. And you can certainly see that our diet has changed a lot in the last 20 years. The calorie count in foods and even coffee seems to have doubled in that period of time, which is astounding. But certainly it makes you feel kind of sad. Not to mention the fact that the Europeans overall still walk a lot. We were staying in an apartment building in Nice, and we had a guy in our building. He had to be somewhere from 85 to 90 years old, but he would get dressed up every day. He looked absolutely adorable in his suit jackets and slacks and everything, and he would go and have his coffee and get his groceries. And even at that age, he was getting out every day. Between the double-sized portions and the general lack of daily exercise, our observations on weight gain in the US seem to be backed up with statistics confirming what we suspected. So the overweight obesity thing is a perfect segue into the number 3 thing that we noticed, and that's the processed food everywhere here in the United States. In Italy, France, Spain, and England, you can't buy processed food. let me give a caveat on England. England has more processed food, but it also does regulate it as well. I'll give you an example of that in a little bit. A great example is like Quaker Oats in the USA compared to the UK. As you can see, there's a whole lot more in the US box than rolled oats, sugar, fruit, and natural flavorings. However, Italy, Spain, and France, you can't buy processed food. Ergo, their supermarkets are a fourth or a fifth of the size of our supermarkets. They don't carry American goods over there. They gave some American-made spaghetti to some Italian women, and they said, you know, what do you think of this? And they said, what is it? And they said, well, it's spaghetti. And they're like, no, spaghetti is, you know, eggs, water, and flour. We don't know what this is. This has got all kinds of funny names in it. So all of those things with funny names don't get sold in these countries. And that is amazing that the government really has the people's back. They're really looking at what is the best and healthiest for the people here. I have to say that that was a real shocker for me to feel like the FDA doesn't really have our back. They allow a lot of things to be sold that are not the best thing for our health. And so that's something that I think, after having spent a year in that environment where you can confidently shop and know that the food is organic, that it's not processed, that there aren't chemicals in it that could hurt you, that's kind of a nice feeling. So that is something I think that made a big impression on us. Okay, the fourth thing that we've noticed, and this was we noticed pretty quickly when we got back, is the pervasiveness of the car culture in the United States. We have to have a car to pretty much go everywhere or do anything, whereas in Europe, most of the cities are designed so that people can walk, and then even down to the neighborhoods. So each neighborhood will have not only a grocery store, but the doctors that you need, the hairdressers, the barbers. They're all kind of like a small microcosm. So people are very community and neighborhood focused, which is also nice. Basically, as soon as we get back here, we're driving to the grocery store, we're driving to the doctors, we're driving everywhere because everything is quite a few miles. It's not even close to walking distance. And we're pretty sure that all of that plays into our weight gain, obesity issue as well. So, you know, the absence of easy public transportation is another thing. You know, during the week, we would jump on the train and go to the town adjacent to us, and this is in the south of France because there's so many cute towns there. And that was just really easy to do. So you walk to the train station, you get on the train, you walk within that town, you come back. You don't really go to the gym that day because you're expending a lot of effort just sightseeing and everything. But you can do that very easily, and you can count on that being easy. So where our days were filled with quick trips to towns and so forth, we're now struggling inside of our iron carriage, as I like to call it, which is a big difference from what we got used to after a year. Okay, here we are, number 5. And one of the things that we noticed, again, that really jumped out at us is the pharmaceutical ads on TV. When we were in Europe, we didn't watch a lot of TV because it was in a foreign language. However, they do not have pharmaceutical ads, and nor do they in England, which we do watch a lot of the TV because we like the BBC. So it's interesting to note that in the world, there's only 2 countries that allow pharmaceutical ads, and that's the United States and New Zealand. And we thought that that was very odd. We also noticed how invasive it was. We love watching golf, and when we got back and we were watching the PGA golf, we were shocked that literally every commercial break was about a pharmaceutical. And that just seemed wrong. I wonder what the statistics are, and you know, if Americans pop that many more pills than Europeans or the rest of the world, because it seems like we're being overprescribed to a huge degree. And so that's something that, again, I really disliked coming back to this culture, is the corporations having that much power and being able to get that much airtime with their products. Okay, number 6, we have the medical industry overall. And being gone a year, of course there's issues, things that come up. It had been incredibly easy to get appointments with doctors or dentists in any of the countries that we were in. Not only that, but the doctors and dentists had such a wonderful bedside manner. They took the time to find out about your history and about you. We have not experienced that in the United States. We very much feel like we're on an assembly line every time we go to the doctor, and that it's a very rushed situation, that we're not being looked at individually, that somebody stares at our chart, makes some decisions, and then many times prescribes some drugs to us. So we really feel that in Europe, the being in medicine is still a calling. It is something that people are drawn to, whereas we feel very much coming back to America that it is very much a business. And that's the same as, when you're being seen in one of these foreign countries, the doctors, nurses seem very empathetic, as opposed to sometimes here in the States, you feel like they're just working to pay off their car loan. The doctor is, seeing you to check a box, pay off his car loan, or, pay off the student loan, something to that degree, but they're not looking at you as an individual. And I believe that that causes a high level of stress. I know it does with me. And definitely makes me very nervous to go to the doctors here in the United States. Okay, so here we are at number 7. That was pretty quick. The big thing that we notice is there's a much slower lifestyle. The Europeans value their time to the point that, especially in France, at 1 o'clock when it's lunchtime, everybody goes to lunch, and it's kind of sweet. You see guys that are street workers, they'll be in a cafe having lunch with their buddy street workers. I was in a store, a clothing store, and this lady was getting out this little table, and then she got out a tablecloth and put it over, and at 1 o'clock, the 3 ladies that worked in the store sat down at the table and started eating lunch. They didn't care that I was there. They didn't close the store, but they took their time to eat their lunch at their pace, enjoy their camaraderie, and that's something that we've completely lost here in the United States. The other thing that we noticed with that is that they do the same thing on Sundays. Now, in smaller towns and villages, many times all the stores will be closed. Everything will be closed on Sunday. We stayed in places that were probably a little bit bigger, more than maybe 2,000 people, in which case we found that the grocery store is usually open on a Sunday, and if not, the corner shop will be open on a Sunday. But aside from that, everything's closed, and there's something really nice about it because you see people going out for walks. In England, they put their wellies on and their rain jackets and go tromping out through the mud with the dogs, come home and have a Sunday roast. In France, they Promenade d'Anglaise in Nice, and in Sardinia, in Italy, all the families would go out together, and I'm talking literally from babies up to teenagers. They would all walk together. And the interesting thing there is that the parents don't allow cell phones. So the family was really talking to each other while they were walking near the beach. They have interaction, and I believe that that type of thing bonds people's families, but it also bonds communities. But it's being willing to have days where literally everything is closed other than some of the grocery stores, and commerce is not done, so people have no choice but to come up with other things that they do, like spend time together. And that was wonderful. It was the slowing down that then, I believe, I don't work anymore, but I would believe that would really prepare you to start Monday fresh and feel more excited about going to work on Monday. We have a 24/7 culture where there's many stores that are literally open 24 hours. There's many fast food places that are open 24 hours. That is not the case in Europe at all. Okay, so I've gone over the things that we were culture shocked by. However, what things did we miss while being away a year? I will tell you that what you do miss is the fact that most American homes, apartments, accommodation in general is a lot bigger than anything that you get in Europe. And because of that, you have walk-in closets here. You have closets. A lot of times in Europe, you have an armoire. And a lot of times the rooms are so small that they cannot accommodate anything other than, let's say, a twin size bed. Now at 65 and 70, twin size beds, that's a new thing to try to get used to again after sleeping in a Cal King for a long time. So coming back to the States, one of the things that we do enjoy is being able to spread out and certainly enjoy the Cal King bed, which is wonderful when you've been sleeping in twin size or queen size beds. The other thing that we've noticed is their kitchens are incredibly small. And because of that, the refrigerators are incredibly small, thus people shopping every day. It is nice to have a large refrigerator. It's nice to be able to shop for multiple days, to freeze things, you know, all of that. It's nice to be able to have a larger kitchen so that you can spread out a little bit while you're cooking. Most of the kitchens that we were in were as small as the galley on our boat. So it was a good thing that we had lived on a boat for 9 years because we were used to cooking in a small space. The other thing that we noticed is that when you do go to the grocery store here, you can actually buy pretty much anything. If you want to make sushi, you can buy everything for that. If you want to make Chinese food, if you want to make Mexican food. In most of the countries that we're in, they do not sell these other foods. They very much sell what they produce in that country. And so you are limited to making those types of foods that they are indicative to the countries, whether it's Italy or France. Probably a little bit more diversity in the UK because the UK has brought in a lot more immigrants from some of these other countries. So those are the three things that we kind of missed about the USA. And I imagine many of you are saying to yourselves, well then, if you had so many things that you liked about Europe, why didn't you just stay there? And that's a great question. And the reason we haven't is because of this thing called Medicare. I'm 65, my husband's 70. So we worked a long time to get Medicare. And when you have Medicare, you're tethered to a particular location. In our case, it's Palm Springs, Palm Desert, California, which means for us to get medical care, we have to go to our primary care doctor. And so we have to come back here to be able to take advantage of that Medicare. Now, at some point, will we be possibly disenchanted enough with the United States to permanently live in another country? That could absolutely happen. As you can see, we do see a lot of positives in being overseas. But at this time, that's something that's really holding us here, and we've worked hard for that. We've worked hard to have the ability to take advantage of Social Security and Medicare. So we do want to try to see how that system works out over the next couple of years. So hopefully that's answered a ton of your questions. You've been able to see what we see as culture shock. And if you're enjoying the videos, there'll be a few others that you can look at that I've done. And by the way, if you're enjoying the videos, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated, or better yet, subscribe if you can. That would help out a lot. So thanks so much, and we'll catch up with you in another week.